Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about some code that I've been working on that I had some fun with and learned a few good things. Basically I want to talk about the selection class in FreeCAD, and then I want to talk about the distToShape function on the as part of the Shape class, as a member function of the Shape class. So what I have here is I have a follower and a cam, and those are in this model right here. So when I select first the follower and then the cam, my macro code will take those selections and use them in the code. And let me hit play again so you can see that it does in fact do that. Now the beauty of this is that instead of using very named objects like having get object by label rocker, get object by label cam, this allows it to be more flexible and lets me use it in other models as well. So for example, I think this is 2 cubes, is it? Oh no, that's something else. So let me start a new document, and I'm just going to stick 2 cubes in it, and I'm gonna move one of the cubes to the right just so it has clearance. So this is a fragile script at this point. If you do it wrong, it can crash FreeCAD or just make it real slow. So the first object I pick is going to be the follower, and the second object is going to be the cam. Now one thing about my script is that it's programmed to rotate around this axis, and I think if I change it to rotate around the center of mass, it'll be more flexible. But you'll get the idea though that even though I've selected 2 different objects, by using the get selection, it'll work on whatever object you want. So now you can see that this is the follower, and it's following the closest point on the cam. And you see there, now it's moving away because it's too close. So let's talk a little bit more about how I did this, because I think it's useful. So the first thing we'll look at is the main loop. So this is my main loop of code below my function definitions. So the first thing I do is I call get objects. So get objects is a custom function I wrote, and it returns the 2 objects that I've selected. And you'll see that's defined up here. It checks to make sure I have 2, and then if I have 2, it assigns the first one to obj1 and the second one to obj2. And I did some real basic error checking if I don't have 2. So for example, if I have 1, it does that. If I had 3, it says pick only 2. So let me talk first a little bit about this get selection. So, and what I'm going to do is first let's do just get selection by itself so you can see what that returns. So when you run this in the console, let me move everything up a little bit. When you run this in the console, it's going to return let's do it with 2. So it's going to return, I think this is a tuple, but maybe just an array. I'm not sure. I can't remember how they're defined. But of what you've selected. To access a single one, you simply address the array by the index. So let me get this first one right here, and we can do this. So if I paste this in, wrong thing. And if I paste this in, you see now obj1 is going to be that first selection, and we can verify that by say use name. So body 0101 is the rocker. So nope, that's the cam. Nope, the rocker. So internal name was body 01. So I was looking down in the bottom left corner there, so you can see internal name body 001 001. All right, so let me do object 2. We'll do it the same way. And oh, I only had one thing selected. Okay, because I was playing around there. No worries. So now I'll get that selection. So object 1 is still considered selected because not selected, but it's assigned to that variable. So the next thing I do is I check the angle. So I get the rotation angle of the follower. So right now it's probably, I think this was the starting point, so it's like 22 degrees. So I think it's a positive rotation from here. So rotation up 22 degrees. So first I get that starting angle, and you see that's printed up 26. Okay. So I get that, and then I check the distance, and this to me is, let's call this the magic. If we go up to the get distance, very simple function call here, nothing much going on, but it's shape 1 with a distance to shape function passing it shape 2, and this is just a reference to, this is probably not the best name to call it. So this is you call it with object1.shape. So let's call that, let's do this method in the console. So it's going to be, I'm just going to grab this from anywhere, object1.shape. So you see the shape, and then we're going to do dot distance to shape. So there's the method, and then we pass it in object to the shape class of object2. And this is going to return three pieces. It returns a distance, a vector, and information about those vectors. So let's copy this and paste that in, equals, so that we capture the values. Now if I type in distance, FreeCAD, the Python console just echoes the value. You'll see that that's 0.12. So let's rotate the rocker arm, and yeah, let's rotate it. I think, is that going to rotate it around the wrong axis? Yeah, so I don't want to do that. Well, I'll just translate it a little bit. So now when I do the assignment again, you'll see the distance is now changed. So now if I go back and do Control Z, it puts it back. So once I get the distance, then I just check, I run through a loop, and I go from 0 to 360. Now I'm able to use that as my angle because I convert the degrees to radians and feed that into the placement object. So, and I'm just modifying the angle, the rotation angle of the placement object. And this is a way to get around having the giant FreeCAD dot vector, that god awful mess of an assignment that I can't understand, half the time can't understand, because you can address, you can in some cases address just a single piece of the placement object. So at that point, once I set the angle, I called my adjust the follower, and basically all this does, it's very basic. If the distance is greater than 0.2 millimeter, it increases the angle. If it's less than 0.1 millimeter, it decreases the angle. So decrease the angle moves the tip this way, increase moves the tip that way, and that way it just keeps this tiny little distance in between the two. So basically this is your tolerance, so it's never going to be closer than 0.1, and it's never going to be further than 0.2, at least for one cycle through this. And then I return the angle, and I print it. So that's the macro, and I think this is a bit of a departure from the other methodologies. So I think I have here. Yeah. So let's look at the methodology here. Nope, cube. Yeah. So here I have a sketch with just a circle and an angle. Let me close that, and let me open the other macro here. So this macro is just to rotate that angle. So this is a very, very simple macro, and let's show it a little bit better here. Basically, and I've seen this around, a lot of people have used this. This wasn't my idea. But basically, if you access the datum, which is the angle of in your sketch, you can change it on the fly, and you can base any other rotational animation on that. So if I look at my sketch, you'll see right now my angle at 360. So now if I run this macro, you'll see the angle is changing, and basically that's just it looping through this while less than 360, and just incrementing it by plus equal 2, and you'll see the same thing. I set the datum. The problem with this is that this datum value can change. So say if this datum for the angle was at was datum number 20. If you changed any of the other, deleted a datum below it, that value disappears. So selection based, to me, it makes it a little bit less fragile in the macro, and I think it's the way to go. So I'm going to be doing more stuff about engines, because I'm working on this guy. So I have my little engine workbench that I'm putting together. So I think it'd be cool to be able to add a cam and just animate it without a whole lot of work. So anyway, if you like this, make sure you follow. I know this one was a lot less instructional, a lot more just freewheeling, but I hope the principle gets out there, and I hope people use it, and let me know. If you have a way of making this better, or if you have a way to draw to have this update faster, this is kind of slow, and it might be just because of my PC, but there might be better ways to do the updates than update GUI or whatever. Make sure you leave comments, and maybe we can make this thing better. So have a great day.